school is stressful. So, you got to do what you have to do. And my name is Angelique Jennings, and I received the Master's of Public Health with a concentration in community health. So currently I work for the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill as a assistant project coordinator on an NIH funded grant looking at health equity in COVID. My favorite part of being a student was working on the DSAC committee. I really enjoyed getting to know my fellow Jingping Su public health members and colleagues. They were great to work with, as well as working with Dr. Tedders and learning so much from, all of the departments that we have here. It was a great experience to be able to sit on the committee as well as be chair. And I was able to get a wide range of experiences that contributed to my current work. So I enjoyed that. Well, I think the one that most stood out to me was probably research methods. That course, it was right in the middle of the pandemic. The pandemic happened in the middle of the semester. So it turned our heads a lot to what was going on at the time. And we had a lot of lofty ideas before about how we were going to execute the class and what kind of research we were going to do. And then having the pandemic come in the middle of that was basically a shock to our system and, really taught us to think on our feet. I think most of the classes I took that semester had that same cadence as well. So, I can say most of the classes of, the average second year community health MPH, or second semester, I should say, of the first year, those classes during the beginning of the pandemic were much more impactful for me as a student. I think it prepared me to, first of all, know anything about public health. I did not come from a public health background. I came from an anthropological and, Spanish degree background. So I was still very new to all the nuances of public health. And I think it taught me how nuanced public health can be and what wide variety of things you can do with your position. I would have never thought, starting off in my degree, that I would be able to get a position at a university doing research. In public health, I always thought public health had to be, at the health department or at nonprofits or, something in the middle of that. But I think that is something I was shocked by. And I think those skills, learning research and learning about community were really beneficial to me in starting off my career and trying to be aware of all of those facets. The best advice I received was to start applying for things early on before graduating. And of course, to get an internship that was going to be, challenging, not necessarily just something to do, something that was going to teach me a lot. Those were the two most useful advice for me. I did my internship with Camp RAD, which stands for the Recreation of Adolescents with Disabilities. It's a program on campus that happens over the summer with adolescents with disabilities. And that did challenge me profusely. Definitely took me out of my comfort zone. And applying early, I think, was very important just to get the scope for the landscape of the job market at the time and seeing, I knew I wanted to be in North Carolina, so it was easy for me to start with a place in mind, but just to start looking at what they are asking for, what kind of things they want, and leaning on the Career Center, that was another good advice tool as well. I definitely ran my resume through the Career Center various times, and learned a lot about drafting resumes and really trying to, see what jobs are looking for. So those were the best pieces of advice I received. My advice would be to pursue any sort of research interest. I know research isn't necessarily for everyone, but I just think it's a useful skill to have in general, in whatever you do, because so many jobs are looking for people who are even knowledgeable about research or know how to use certain data related systems, things of that nature. Take advantage of your professors, pick their brains about ideas, try to collaborate on certain initiatives that they're working on and see what kind of research that they're interested in that you can also become interested in as well. Go to presentations and conferences and learn about, what's the current pulse of public health right now, because that is a determinant factor in what's being looked into overall, what money is being ejected into the nexus of public health, we'll say, because certain topics are more popular than others at different times. And I hate to put it that way, we should treat all health related concerns equally, but unfortunately funding is scarce. So, that doesn't necessarily, reflect that in, practice. So I think trying to, be aware of the market as well, be aware of what jobs are looking for. If you want to work in a certain role, look into those positions well, look into, what the hiring season is looking like. Even in Georgia, I know they had a lot of great fellowships and opportunities, to build up your knowledge, right? And take that knowledge from outside of just Georgia. Even I know the CDCC had a program I was looking into where you could live in, a city that they chose for you for a couple years as a fellow, doing a particular role in public health. So, things of that nature, things you wouldn't consider off the top of your head, right? Apply for those things, and try to find your niche, if you can, try to find what's really going to interest you. And you may not necessarily find it in your program, and that's perfectly fine. We all have school is stressful. So, you got to do what you have to do and get through it the way it works best for you. So, and try to be also diverse in your interests outside of your program. People like to see that you had other interests going on outside of just being a student. So whether that be leading an organization or taking part in some committee or, other club on campus or something like that, volunteering is always great as well. Try to be diligent about, developing your interests outside of just being single-minded. That's also very helpful. And learn a language. That's always helpful too. So lots of advice for our students. But I know Jingping Su has great students, very diligent, probably following all this advice anyway. So